Miss Lilith, can you grab my badonkadonk?
You what now?
Let's not mince words. Borderlands was the single worst movie of the year. As the long-awaited adaptation of a much-loved video game franchise, it failed in so many ways on so many levels that we almost feel bad for it. Kinda like those psychos in-game that scream about how sad and lonely they are, and like those poor psychos, we'll put this movie out of its misery.
I'm getting too old for this shit.
For fans of Gearbox Software's game series, which has been going strong since 2009, the Borderlands movie felt like a flat-out betrayal. It pretends to be an adaptation of the first game, though it really only pays lip service to its characters, story, and world. There are a ton of examples we could point to that give away just how careless the creative team was with the Borderlands IP, and you've probably seen a lot of those examples plastered across the internet for the past 6 months or so. But surprisingly, almost every issue related to fans' misgivings about the movie can be summed up through the one character people tend to skip over, Florian Munteanu's Krieg. First and foremost, Krieg is not in the first Borderlands game, so he doesn't actually belong in the movie. He and Tiny Tina don't show up until Borderlands 2, but for the purpose of this script, they've taken the place of Mordecai and Brick, who have been written out completely. And while Munteanu looks the part, as does basically every one of our main characters, he is nowhere near the person fans know him to be. In the movie, this is how he's introduced.
I will lick your spine clean!
If you didn't know any better, this character comes off as just another mindless killing machine. Back when Krieg was first announced as a character for Borderlands 2, the developers put out a hilarious story trailer that does more for his characterization in 4 minutes than the entire 90-minute movie.
Do not scream the word poop at the top of your lungs.
I'm the conductor of the poop train!
Despite Borderlands' vulgar humor, there is depth and substance to its world and characters. Krieg's inner monologue shows that off brilliantly. Internally, he is a person with coherent thoughts who's struggling against an innate need for destruction and chaos, but the Borderlands movie isn't interested in showing off the complexities at work here. It wants to emulate more popular movies from the Marvel and DC cinematic universes, so Krieg is relegated to being a thoughtless bit of comic relief whose sole purpose is to shout random nonsense and trounce enemies.
Meat soup.
Chemical waste.
But even then, he fails at that most basic role for fans. The game's unique, eccentric, and frankly unhinged sense of humor is totally missing and has been replaced by safe jokes that wouldn't feel out of place coming from the Guardians of the Galaxy.
My mouth!
Sardine showers.
It's pee. It's pee. Now I got pee all in the middle of my truck.
Correction, it's 67% urine, 14% fecal matter.
Additionally, there are no weapon gimmicks, and when we do get to see combat, it feels more akin to laser tag. Both of these things are a symptom of the movie's PG-13 rating. Borderlands as a game series is unapologetically gory in over-the-top and unrealistic ways. When bringing that into live action in a PG-13 context, it's impossible to replicate, as we've seen with similar blunders like Sony's Venom trilogy, so we got this instead. It looks, feels, and sounds like they're play fighting, falling over totally unwounded from fake bullets and getting pummeled by a foam buzz axe with absolutely no impact. Essentially, Krieg was totally let down by the movie, and so was everyone and everything else. The first Borderlands game is full of jagged, rocky terrain. The game maps in the preceding installments are colorful and cartoony and full of diverse biomes. Since most of the movie was shot outside of Budapest, we're subjected to a strange mashup of wannabe Mad Max-style scenery and vibrant Guardians-level interiors. And shoehorning a Chosen One prophecy into a game that doesn't feature one certainly was a choice.
The legends were true. She's the Firehawk.
But okay, none of this actually makes Borderlands a bad movie. It just makes it a bad Borderlands movie, right? Maybe casual audiences without any heavy fandom expectations could enjoy it as a fun romp through a post-apocalyptic sci-fi setting. Sure, the movie's big action sequences are boring and uninspired, the prophecy is dull and the twist is obvious, the characters' motivations make no sense or are sometimes non-existent, but what about the cast? Cate Blanchett, Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Hart, these are experienced actors. Surely the strength of their talent helped to prop this movie up. Well, many of the actors themselves are horrendously miscast, and not just in relation to who their in-game characters are supposed to be. Hart is one of the most baffling choices in this movie since they decided to cast a known comedian in the role of the only straight man in the entire series.
Who's this handsome devil?
He's a badass killer.
Making the movie's version of Roland indistinguishable from every quippy soldier that has ever come out of the Disney's Marvel movies.
Hi.
I'm Scott.
Did he just say, hi, I'm Scott?
Obviously, Blanchett as Lilith is hard to get past for fans, but in a movie that already cares so little for its source material, what's one more inaccuracy? The real problem is that Blanchett's age actually poses a problem for the movie's own internal logic. Gina Gershon's Mad Moxie tells us she knew Lilith's mother and was apparently her friend.
I hope that you know how much your mama loved you. She always told me how special you were.
Her lines in the Badass Crater Bar insinuate that she's supposed to be an older woman who has watched Lilith grow up, but Gershon is only 7 years older than Blanchett. Similarly, we're told that Tanis, played in this movie by Jamie Lee Curtis, helped to raise Lilith, and Curtis is just 10 years older than Blanchett. Even without knowing the precise numbers, it's visually obvious that all these actors are around the same age, so it just comes off as confusing and logically inconsistent. Overall, the cast of the Borderlands movie just feels out of place. So why were they cast in the first place? Well, probably because Eli Roth and Randy Pitchford just really liked them. Eli Roth is, of course, best known for directing the brutally violent Hostel films, 2018's Death Wish, and several horror movies you're probably still trying to get out of your brain. And now, unfortunately for fans, he's known for directing the Borderlands movie.
Don't judge me!
What? How is this funny?
Keep it down.
Do I judge you when you blast out alone?
Randy Pitchford is the co-founder of Gearbox Software and a part-time magician. No, seriously, he does magic tricks on stage at conventions and owns the famed Magic Castle in Hollywood. And that's not even cracking the surface of how weird that guy is. What's relevant to our point today is that Pitchford is enamored with Hollywood, celebrities, and fame. He worked closely with Eli Roth all throughout the development of the Borderlands movie, and both of them were focused on attracting the biggest possible celebrity names to the project for the sake of marketability, and that enthusiasm for big names significantly hindered production. In an interview with Polygon, Pitchford admitted that when they cast Kevin Hart, he threw Roland's characterization out the window because he wanted to see Hart make jokes on screen. That same interview illuminates just how fixated Pitchford was on creating his own cinematic universe for Borderlands, which he points to as the reason for many of the creative decisions. So it was Pitchford himself who sullied his own beloved game franchise, and no one pushed back, not even the movie's director or script writer, which, does anyone actually know who wrote Borderlands? The movie was in the works for almost a decade, and in that time, at least 10 writers contributed to the script. One of those writers was Craig Mazin, who rocked the world with a different video game adaptation in HBO's The Last of Us. But about a year before the Borderlands movie released, Mazin asked to have his name removed from the project. Officially, a mysterious person named Joe Crombie is credited along with Roth as being the screenwriter. However, one quick look into Crombie's supposed filmography will tell you that they probably don't exist. Joe Crombie is likely a pseudonym or an entirely fake person. Meanwhile, even Roth's directorial credit isn't entirely accurate. During reshoots at the end of production, Tim Miller stepped in for Roth thanks to apparent scheduling conflicts. It's unclear just how much reshooting the Deadpool director did or how much say he had in the final edit of the film, but he sat in the director's chair for about 2 weeks. To put it mildly, the movie's development was a mess from start to finish, and the creative minds behind it made the wrong decision at every possible turn. There was no way it was ever going to be good, which is frustrating because they actually had a blueprint for how to write a Borderlands cinematic universe if that's what they wanted to do. The first season of Tales from the Borderlands sits squarely in the same universe as the game series did, while managing to be its own thing. It's similar in tone and style, but it gave us new characters and stories to fall in love with. The characters it did bring back felt true to their origins, and it expanded the world in a way that felt natural. Oh, and it's M-rated. But Pitchford, Roth, and the rest of the team behind the Borderlands movie didn't actually want to put effort into making a solid Borderlands movie. They wanted to leverage celebrities and a built-in fan base to make money on a bad facsimile of the MCU's worst offerings. Thankfully, the movie lost millions of dollars at the box office, so it looks like Randy Pitchford won't be getting his cinematic universe after all. Maybe he should stick to magic tricks. And well, that's all we have for you today. Thanks so much for sticking around all the way until the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, make sure you let us know by hitting the thumbs up and subscribing to Nerdstalgic for more deep dives just like this.